Like the original in the series, Rush 2 offers a number of tracks. However, unlike the original, Rush 2's tracks are based on various landmark cities across the United States rather than simply areas found in San Francisco. Tracks include Seattle, Uptown New York, Las Vegas, and Hawaii. Alcatraz, Aka the Rock, which was known for being one of the most elusive tracks in the original game, becomes a regular appearance in this game. Like the original game, the circuit is a main feature of this game. The player obtains points based on placement of each race. At the end of the circuit, the player's final placement in the standing depends on how many of these points the player accumulates in all the races combined. Beat the circuit in first place and win the game. Finish in anything less, well, there's room for improvement. The player can also activate Death Circuit via the option menu for an additional challenge. If the player uses this feature in the game, then any death/crash in the course will end the race, resulting in a loss of circuit points if the player is in the circuit. A particularly difficult mode to be sure. One positive attribute to this game is the nice selection of cars. There is a nice plethora of customizable cars in this particular game which I liked. There were several new ones as well as tributes to the old cars that were present in the previous iteration of this game. The graphics, I found, were a marked improvement over the previous iteration of this game. They seemed, somehow, less muddy than the previous version. While the graphics were seemingly decent, they were often covered up by the fog, perhaps to try and soften the edginess to some of the textures. The graphics weren't exactly mind-blowing, but they were pretty good for a game of its time. The music, I found, was a great feature of this game. The breakbeat style of the music really went a long way to making this game pop for me. While most of the songs were good, I particularly liked the Tinkletoon track, default song for Las Vegas. That song had a particular shine that I liked that elevated it over the rest. The sound effects, many of which were a carry over from the previous game, was still a pretty nice touch to the game. Overall, there's a lot of content this game borrows from the original Rush game. That fact doesn't really detract from the overall experience. There are improvements over the original game that made this game a nice step up from the original version. While the advertising was a little annoying at times, one can easily ignore it as it isn't too obnoxious, minus the Mountain Dew cans and the Mountain Dew car. So, if you're up for a retro racing game, you could do a whole lot worse than playing this game. A solid, entertaining game all around.